Good morning. Today's Monday, the 7th day of Kislev. We continue in the Tanya, Kuntres Acharon, the last part of the Tanya, in the middle of the fourth essay, where the Alter Rebbe is talking about different explanations why the mitzvahs of action have a very special place. And Alter Rebbe explained what we learned yesterday, that in the mitzvah that involves action, the mitzvahs that involve action, there is a big advantage in the fact that this is refining the lowest levels, meaning that in this world, we are here in order to elevate, to refine the sparks, the godly sparks that lay in the lowest places. And when you're involved in action, you're actually you're elevating those sparks. So therefore, compared to the intellectual and the emotional way of serving Hashem, this is much, much greater. Although intellectually, emotionally, you can reach into higher levels, but when you're involved in the mitzvah, which involves the action, you actually bring up the godly sparks that lays in the lowest places. Today, the Alter Rebbe is going to continue with giving more explanations. He's going to explain further why the mitzvahs of the action have an advantage. Because after all, one would think that when you have the mitzvah that involves the emotions and the mitzvahs that involve the understanding, after all, you're serving Hashem with a higher part of the human being. You know, you cannot compare when you serve and with understanding and with feelings, then you just take simply, you wrap yourself with the feeling, doing just a physical act. Physical act seems that it's not so refined, it's not so profound, it's not so elevated. So here comes the Alter Rebbe and saying another reason. He says, no, that indeed even in the action itself, not only is it the fact that you have godly spark in the lowest place, but the very action, the mitzvahs that involve action, have in them a higher godly spark, a higher godly revelation. And to understand this, Alter Rebbe gives also an example. You know, it says, he's asking a very interesting question. He says, we humans obviously are the highest of the creatures in the world. You have inanimate objects, you have vegetations, you have animals, we have humans. And yet, we are sustained by the lowest level. We eat, in order to survive, we eat meat, or we eat vegetables. We eat things that are below us in a lower level, and this is what gives us sustenance. This is what keeps us alive. So the question is, why is it that way? So he explains that it says, Lo yala lechem levadoi yichya adam. A man doesn't live only by the bread. Ki al kol moitzei pi Hashem yichya adam. That the life that a person lives comes from the words of Hashem that is in the bread. Meaning that Hashem put his words in order to create the bread. And this word of Hashem that is in the bread, that gives us life. So you can ask a question. Wait a second. But isn't human also from the words of Hashem? Hashem also put his words in us, humans, in order, it says, Naaseh Adam, Hashem says, let it be a man, and we became men. So why is that spark of Hashem not enough to sustain us? Why do you need the words of Hashem that is in the bread? And this the Alter Rebbe comes to explain now, that the word of Hashem that is in the bread comes from a higher level than the word of Hashem that is in us. It's like when you take a tower, tall tower, the tower falls down, the bricks that are on the top fall further away. So the higher level of godliness came down into the lower levels of the creations, of the creatures in this world. And in the Kabbalistic terms, this comes from the name Sag. And we'll see it inside, as the Alter Rebbe explains this. Says the Alter Rebbe, another reason, in addition to what we said yesterday, why the mitzvahs, the actual mitzvahs are more higher, more important. It says, Shebe'emes, the truth is, Abirurim shebebriya yetzira asiya merapach. The truth is that the purifications in Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, the three lower worlds that come from the 288 sparks of Toyu, Al Yedei Torah Mitzvahs, B'machshava Dibur Masa, when we're doing by means of Torah Mitzvahs, when a man fulfills in thought, speech, and action, Gvoim b'shoroshon minefesh ruach neshama sheba'adam. They are superior in the source, superior to the nefesh ruach neshama, the three levels of the soul of the man. Why? Ki hein misag shebepnimius adam kadman. Because the lowest level, the action, the physical objects, they derive from the divine name Sag. What is the divine name Sag? Sag is 63. There is 4 different ways how to spell out the name of Hashem, Yud K Vav K. When you spell each letter, you can spell the Hey, you can spell Hey Aleph, or you can spell it Hey Yud. And the same thing is with the Vav. You can spell Vav Yud Vav, or you can spell Vav Aleph Vav. So the different ways of the combination of the letters come up with 4 different numbers. You have the number of 45, the number of Ma. You have the number 52, the number of Ban. You have the number 63, which is Sag. And you have the number 72, which is Ayin Beis. So here it says that when you have the physical objects, they come from a higher level from the number Sag, the number 63. And that refers to the light, which was the intense light, which was before Hashem. In the beginning, when Hashem created the world, there was the world of Toyu, the world of chaos, because of such an intense light. And this comes from the Pnimius Adam Kadmon. It is the internal aspect of Adam Kadmon. The level of Adam Kadmon is the level which is before Atzilus. Nefesh Ruach Neshama shekvar nitaknu al yedei ma. But the soul, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which was already corrected through the divine name Ma, the name Ma is the name of Hashem 45, the combination of 45, which was already comes after it was already fixed, that the light was put into vessels. He says, Hu yoytze ma'metzach, that comes out from the forehead. which is just a shine. It is not the inner part of the Adam Kadmon. It is just like the forehead. When you see on the forehead something and a reflection of it. V'zeu shekasuv, it says here, this explains a verse that we say in the Torah, that we're going to read next week, Parshas Vayishlach. It says, Lifnei meloch melech chulu. It says, before a king ruled over the children of Israel. And the Torah is talking about over there, about the kings that came from Esav. Eila Melachim, these are the kings that came from Esav. And it says they were the kings before there was a king to Israel. So Esav, the light, the energy that Esav had is a very, very intense, powerful light. That's why we read last week, Yitzchak loved Esav so much. Not because he was fooled, thinking that he was a tzaddik, because Yitzchak knew exactly the potential, the powerful potential that Esav had. And that's what the Torah says, Lifnei, that these are the king before there was the king for Bnei Israel, meaning that there is a level of very intense light, and that is in the physical objects that fell down very, very low. And this is the reason, says the Alter Rebbe, V'hai taime she'adam chai b'mezonos daimim tzemeach chai. And this is the reason why man is sustained by food of the daimim, inorganic, and tzemeach, the vegetative, and chai, and the living classes. Umevareron b'mashaboy. And the man purifies them by the man within him. The man is the light which was already refined. And when a person eats the food, you purify and you elevate the food, and therefore after you elevate these sparks from the food, v'chai ba'em, and lives through them, lives through the sparks that is in the food, in the physical things. Why? Because they derive from sag, which is a much higher level. So that's another reason why he said what is important about the actual physical mitzvahs, even though it's not emotional, it's not big, deep logic and deep understanding, it's just plain doing the mitzvah. Because in that plain action lies a very, very high level of light. The Rebbe continues yet another reason, another explanation why it's important to have the physical mitzvah. He says, Alter Rebbe is furthermore, there is yet another reason as to why action-related mitzvahs are higher, are loftier than the soul's love and fear of Hashem. What is the reason? He says, as it is written, my face, meaning my innermost dimension, my pnimius, pona is from the word pnimius, the innermost, that shall not be seen. What does it mean? This means that the inwardness of a truly higher degree cannot descend below in a revealed manner. From Hashem, the innermost part of Hashem doesn't come down. What does come down? Only the external aspect and the hinder part, which are the shades of the supreme wisdom. So therefore, the emotional parts of in Torah, love and fear and so on, those are only, they don't come down. But the action does come down. The actual mitzvahs, you have the chitzonius, which are the chitzonius, they do come down. And that's why when you connect with the actual mitzvahs, you connect to what comes down from Hashem. And yet another reason, one more reason the Alter Rebbe gives here, why the actual mitzvahs are so important. And here he says a very interesting reason. And to use an example is when you want to, there is things you can give over, things that you can give over in a spiritual way and things you can give over in a physical way. What can you give over spiritually? What can you give over physically? Imagine, for example, if you have an artist who paints a beautiful painting, and there's a beautiful tree with beautiful oranges, it looks so real. And the person comes and sees and watches it and looks at it and is very, very inspired. What the artist obviously delivers through the art, a very deep and very emotional, whatever he wants to deliver through the art, and the message goes over. But can you take and grab an orange from the painting and make a bracha and eat? No, you can't. The physical is not transferred. The essence is not transferred through the spiritual. It can only be transferred when you take a simple seed and you plant it in the ground and it rots and grows a new physical fruit. So the same thing is what the example Alter Rebbe is going to use is what comes from the brain. Obviously, the highest level of a human being is the brain, the intellect. How do you transfer from the intellect? If a person has brains, you can transfer the intellect to another person. But what does it transfer? What do you give over? It gives over a very exterior part of the intellect, not the essence of the intellect. You only give over whatever the person can understand. But when it comes to giving birth, there is a union that happens, and that has to be in the physical part. There is a physical part which seems, if you compare the physical part to brilliant ideas, the physical part is nothing. But yet the physical part, which is the semen that comes from the brain, goes through the spine, this physical part is able to deliver and to create a new human being that has the same brain as the father, and maybe it can be even more and greater, better than the father. Because the whole essence is transferred where? In the physical part. The same thing the Alter Rebbe says is that all the ideas of thoughts and love and fear and meditation, and that's all beautiful. It's like a deep intellect. But it's not Hashem himself. It's not the essence of Hashem that is transferred. But in the physical object, the physical mitzvahs, there you have the very essence, the deeper level of Hashem that is transferred. So let's see it inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, in addition to that, another point, verbalizing any phrase of the supreme wisdom does not procreate. Whereas the drop that is drawn from the vessel of the supreme wisdom, this has the power to procreate and to bring about existence ex nihilo, something from nothing. And also flow of the supreme wisdom is included in it, incorporated within it. And the reason is because into it there is drawn the essence and the nature of the supreme wisdom. but which is not so the case. It's not the case with thought and speech. And even when you have askolas seichel, when you have a seichel in some wisdom, chachma zu rak ha'ora mispashetes mima'us seichel shebanefesh ve'atzmusay. This wisdom is mere reflection that extends from the essence of the intellect in the soul. והאור הזו היא רק לבוש למהוסי ועצמוסי של השכל. And then too, this reflection is a mere garment. It's only a garment, only a levush for the very essence of the intellect. והשכל, so this is a garment to the seichel, to the intellect. והשכל הוא האור ולבוש למהוס הנפש. And the intellect is only a reflection and a garment to the very essence of the soul. But in contrast, by the tipo, when there is the drop, there is also drawn into the drop something of the very essence of the soul, which is clothed within the brain. This is why it gives birth to something exactly that looks similar to the father. And now the Alter Rebbe explains that this is the difference between neshamas and angels, malachim. How do angels create it? How are angels come to the being? They come to being also from a union. Just like humans, just like we people or neshamas come from a union, anything that gives birth, is created, it is created from a union. But the union that brings about the creation of angels is an external union. He calls it, in the Kabbalah, it's called a spiritual kiss. When there's a kiss, creates malachim. It says, this is the difference between the divine service of angels, which are born of a spiritual kiss, but the souls, they come out from the vessels, the more lower part, not physical, but it's lower than the lights. But the vessels of Atzilus, they become a soul to Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah. Ve'ilkach, and therefore, the chilu urechimu sichlim and kemalachim the neshikim. Therefore, it says intellectual love and awe. When a person is excited, love and awe to Hashem, they are comparable to the angels that issue from the spiritual kiss. Which they come from an external aspect of Chabad, from the shine of the external aspect of Chachma, Bina, and Das, in the levels, the world of Bria, Yetzir, Asiya, Ve'atam. And the reason is, Mishum de Pnimius Chabad Meusay V'atzmusay Shelo Pnimi Eino Yochel Leizgalos, because the innermost dimension of Chachma, Bina, Das, and the essential nature of the Oyo Pnimi, the indwelling light, the Pnimi light, cannot be revealed Elo al yedei ha'oras ha'kelim davka hayodim lemata. It's only except through the radiance of the vessels that descend below, just like the drop of a man. Ketipas ha'odam imaychim, just like it does, as does this seminal drop of man issuing from the brain. Only there you have the creation. As it is written, my face, my innermost dimension shall not be seen. And this is why, this is the difference. This the Alter Rebbe concludes here, that this is the other reason why you have the innermost revelation of godliness, or the essence of godliness, that can be grasped only through the actual mitzvahs, because in the emotions and the intellect and the love and the fear, there you can reach only as much as humanly can be. But when you connect to the actual mitzvah, the physical mitzvah, where Hashem invested himself, there you connect to the essence of Hashem. So this is the end of today's shir. Thank you so much for joining. Join us live every morning, 9 a.m. You can have the link down in the description. And please share any questions you can ask now.